want to hear some of that techno music.
You're listening to CreepGeeks Podcast. So it begins again. Welcome back to CreepGeeks Podcast. This is Season 8, Episode 317.
Conjuring House is garbage, Skywatching, UK Police Chief, NC Bigfoot photo, and Save the Planet.
Yeah. So here we are again. Welcome back to the CreepGeeks Podcast. Glad you're here. If it's your very first time tuning in, we're really glad to see you.
Yeah.
And if you're a long-time listener, we're glad you're back.
Yeah.
So we've basically had to take a little bit off, hit a little COVID vacation. It happens.
I wouldn't call it a vacation.
Well, you know, it's the flu now. So it is what it is. And, you know, we're good.
I'm not.
Well, some of us are tougher than others, I guess.
Oh, that's it.
Well, I didn't mess around this time. I applied all of the myth behind COVID on how to cure yourself, with the exception of the chloroclactic, whatever that stuff's called, horse paste, right? And it seemed to work. I used Mexican antibiotics, the amitriptyl, whatever that stuff's called. Mm-hmm. I used a bunch of vitamin C and zinc and some gummies and some other zinc type stuff. You know, I was proactive. What? I was. I mean, last time I suffered. This time I suffered, but not nearly as bad. So either it was weak to begin with, or I'm more tough than I know.
It's hitting some people differently. Like somebody we know, she's already getting over it. Me, I was down for the count for a full week, and I was taking the Paxlovid treatment, as well as vitamin C and vitamin D and magnesium and stuff like that. And my voice is still going out, and I am exhausted.
Yeah. See, that's the problem I'm having. I could move around and get super tired all of a sudden.
But yeah, like I was saying, some people are getting over it super quick, and then it's me, and I'm going on week 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, not cool.
You know, gotta be tough. Gotta be tough.
It's not how this works.
Sure it is. Anyway, I say as I can't even talk. But yeah, so it's been a minute, so we're glad you're here. Hold on, I got a cough. There you go.
Okay.
It's not helping. But we're going to get through it.
Yeah.
We will persevere. We won't let things like this keep us down, and we certainly won't let UK British police chief talk like he's going to come over and do something. That's in the podcast.
Okay.
So I kind of put this together when I was a little grumpy. I'm still a little grumpy, but I was more grumpy then. And it was just like, you want some of this. So I was a little fired up, so we're going to put it in here. We've got some good stuff we're going to talk about. Uh-huh. A couple different ways you can interact with the podcast if you so desire. We have a free phone number that you can call and leave a message or text.
That phone number is going to be 575-208-4025.
Yes, and we're active on social medias mostly. This is Facebook and Instagram and Patreon if you'd like to do that sort of thing. And like to say hello to our patrons.
Yep.
Hello. TikTok, whatever you want.
Yeah.
So, I'm just trying to figure out where I want to jump in here. Okay, so Marion, North Carolina is known for the Bigfoot Festival. Yeah. It is one of the largest Bigfoot festivals that actually happens in the Southeast.
Yeah.
And I don't care what anybody says. Everybody, well, no. It's like, yes, it is. It's the whole street, the whole deal, right? Mm-hmm. It's because evidently Bigfoot's been spotted, seen, photographed, whatever, in our area, right?
Yeah.
In North Carolina, right? So that's the thing. So that's why we have the Bigfoot Festival. And there's been a picture that's been taken, which we're going to talk about here in a minute.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you right now, I know in a podcast, it's not a visual podcast, it's more audio. It's hard to see what we're talking about.
Okay.
And we do not do a good enough job describing what we see in a way that it paints the rosy picture, perfect, you know, super clear, non-potato version of the image in your head. But everything we talk about in the podcast, we have links to.
Yeah.
And those links are available in our show notes. And if you go to CreepGeeks.com after we do a podcast or whenever you see it, you'll see all the links in there and you can see what we're talking about if that's what you're so inclined to do. So long way to say that we have stuff to talk about that's going to require, if you want a better idea of what we're trying to convey and you want to see the picture for yourself, you're going to have to click the links.
Follow along with the show.
Yeah, if you can. We're not telling you what to do, but it's just probably about the best way to do it. Now, for other things that we're going to talk about, I do have audio links.
Okay.
And we'll talk some about that too. I just kind of want to throw that out there. So in our last episodes, we've been talking about Starlink and the idea that pieces of Starlink, this Space Dragon X capsule, whatever, has been dropping little chunks of stuff on North Carolina. And it got me thinking about when people look for UFOs, right? The term is Skywatch. And you go out there and you Skywatch, look for UFOs. Well, evidently, there's probably a way that you can do it that makes better sense of how to do it and versus what you can expect to see, right? So I decided to put this link in here because maybe some of the Skywatch ability can be put towards, being able to actively see when Starlink is trying to bomb your hometown, right?
Yeah.
So what is a Skywatch? Is basically it's when individuals gather to observe the night sky, typically with the aim of spotting something unusual, like unusual aerial phenomena, and it might be considered UFOs.
See, I'm used to
unidentified flying objects.
And I'm used to Skywatch, meaning like specifically for like meteor showers and astrophenomenon, not necessarily UAPs.
Well, I'm going to say UFO because I'm tired of UAP. Unidentified aerial phenomenon. All right, whatever, man. It's unidentified flying objects. So, but during the Skywatch, participants scan the skies, look for anything that deviates from the norm, which the norm would also be things like you were talking about, like satellites and. Why do you look so weird? Why are you making a weird face? I keep
hearing like a crackle.
It's probably on my throat.
No.
Just move on. That's just like hearing some. Is that what you're hearing?
No.
A piece of candy. You want a piece of candy? Got some peppermints. All right. So anyway, you can look for a wide varying view. I can't even talk today. A whole bunch of phenomena like the Perseid meteors, Skylink or Starlink.
Yeah.
I was thinking of Skylab when Skylab is coming down and stuff like that. But, it could definitely be used for looking for UFOs. That's what more people are trying to do these days. And you have these little parties you can go to and everybody gets up there and looks. And it's like, man, I paid $400 and I'm going to see something. We've almost been involved with those.
Yes.
But I'm like, I'm not paying. I'm sorry, man. I'm just not. And I understand people got to make money.
Yeah.
But, come on.
Even what's
when
worse?
you start to, when it kind of feels like I'm being taken advantage of and sets my what do you call it? I don't say spider sense. That's probably trademark.
Yeah. Spidey. Yeah.
Anyway.
Red flags.
I don't even call it a red flag. It's more of a sense. I don't let it get to a red flag. If it's already a red flag situation, and I haven't done my, I'm late. I'm late to the ball game when it comes to
my thing
like
is though, like that's something you and I don't think we could ever do because just, well, am I going to see some UFOs? And I wouldn't be able to with a straight face be like, yeah, I mean, maybe you'll see something.
And you're going to see something. If you look the right way, you will always see something.
Yeah.
Now, whether it's what you want it to be, more than likely there's a 99% chance that it's not. Most people don't walk around looking up anyway.
Yeah.
If I look up, I'm going to have to lay in a lawn chair. So it's kind of like one of those things. But, I mean, you'll see something. So a couple things you want to do if you're trying to see something in the sky and you're trying to be like a sky watcher, you want to try to find a spot where you can actually see. And you want to try to find a spot where people have seen other stuff. So that kind of makes sense, right? Let's go where other people have seen some things.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, well, that makes sense. Some things you might want to look at that you probably didn't consider is things like animal behavior. If somebody's like, I got a farm, animals were going crazy, and all of a sudden we've seen something. I happen to notice that every time the animals go crazy, I see something, and that may be something to kind of take into add as a factor of being able to see.
Yeah.
And see about some of those behaviors and stuff. And if they see, people see lights and the lights are zigzagging and flying across the sky and splitting up into multiple things, that's more than likely something that you want to see versus Starlink, which is nice and stable, more than one, right? Slowly ascending to the heavens to provide internet for us in the rural neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Starlink is pretty stable. It's a Starlink train, right? along with animal behavior and stuff like that. You kind of look like, we're talking about like birds and stuff, and birds acting strangely. You hear like weird noises, like hums and mechanical noises and buzzes and all sorts of things. You just want to kind of look. You're looking for things that make the area that you're going to go look or hopefully see something, that there's a reason to go there. So you're looking for weird stuff.
Yeah.
And it would help that you could find and talk to people that say, all right, I've had these weird things happen. I just happen to notice these things. You probably have a higher likelihood to see something versus just showing up. And, some of these skywatchers are going to have like binoculars or a telescope.
Night vision devices.
Video cameras, whatever.
Yeah.
And hopefully they can use those devices and see like a wider section of the sky. But you're talking about the sky. So there's not a lens on this planet wide enough to capture enough of it. Even if you use a camera, it's going to be so wide, you're not going to be able to differentiate between a star and something else. So,
yeah.
And part of the reason why I put this in here, kind of talk about a little bit, aside from the Starlink stuff, is that we watched like 4 or 5 episodes of, or I did, you might have been asleep on the couch, like night vision and stuff like that, where they think like, in an never before seen footage using a camera that's 300,000 times stronger than the human eye, we seen this bug.
Oh, yeah, that nature show thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dark skies or night sky or whatever. That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
So, some other tools you can probably use be like radio scanners, pick up unusual frequencies and frequency responses and stuff like that. And, but you start to get into the weeds with the whole thing, and it becomes it can become pretty expensive.
Yeah.
So you don't necessarily need like this specialist equipment to go out there and kind of do it. You can, sort of train with the naked eye.
Yeah.
It would help to, go to a dark place that's hopefully active so you can kind of see some stuff.
And they do stress, choosing locations with minimal light pollution, such as rural areas or designated dark sky park areas. They do recommend avoiding areas that are close to roads, bright city lights, or artificial light sources like an entire airport.
Yeah.
You can see an airport for miles and miles away, But they do stress to make sure that your location you're going to is safe and accessible, and always letting people know where you're going. The funny thing is, a lot of these places that have confirmed sightings of unique phenomenon aren't always safe and accessible.
Yeah.
I mean, like Wiseman's View is a perfect spot to like witness Brown Mountain Light phenomenon, but it's not always accessible, especially during certain times of year.
Yeah.
And like they had some really crazy rains a couple weeks ago, and just to get to Wiseman's is pretty tough right now. Or to even get to the other thing I eventually want to do is get into the basin of the Linville Gorge and see if we see anything. And
yeah, it's a long walk. It's got to be ATV for me. I can't walk 10 miles down it. I'm just not.
But even still, there's no signal down there. It's a rough hike down. I found one trail. I've been doing my own research, and that one trail, it's going to be about a mile to get down. So that's cool, but is that safe and accessible? Not for everybody.
Yeah.
I mean,
people get killed to death going down there. You got to be careful.
But I bet it's going to be an amazing view,
Or you're down there and you can't see anything at all because you're just too far deep into it.
I think once you get into the Linville Basin where the river actually is, I think that you'll be able to see up.
Well, if you get too far, the underground base that's there, maybe you can get a ride back to civilization.
Okay.
After they ask you a bunch of questions. What are you doing there? What are you doing down here? Do you know how fast you were going? Do you know how fast you were going? Yeah, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. All right, so anyway, the idea that going out and looking for stuff, here's the thing, and is another reason why I put this in here. It's pretty cheap. Mm-hmm. If you can go find somewhere that maybe has had some activity and can see the sky, that's pretty much it. That's all you need.
Yeah.
Maybe you can use your phone, take pictures or whatever. Maybe a chair, bring a beverage, and you can ooh and ah with the rest of them, right?
Yeah.
So I've been looking at inexpensive things to do. And, that's really
I want to try some of the other Blue Ridge Parkway overlooks, just to see.
Well, we got to know where they are.
Yeah.
And if you are making a trip out to the Blue Ridge and like Blue Ridge Parkway and stuff like that, just be aware your phone is not going to give you the best GPS coordinate type action when you're up there because there's some places that are just marked so terribly. Like we actually was coming back from the Smoky Mountain, or what was it, the Bigfoot festival that we did 5 years, Gatlinburg.
Yeah.
And then GPS said, go this way. And we did, and it was on a dirt trail.
Yeah.
And it was rough. And there was a family in a Subaru following behind us because they figured we knew where we were going. And it's like, you should look at the New Mexico plate. We didn't really know. And I knew as soon as we got on, like, this is not the right way.
Yeah.
But the road was so narrow, I couldn't turn around. We're in a big, giant van. But we had big, meaty tires. And, I'm like, I wasn't too worried about it because the van has the shovel and everything we need to get out of there. But my thought is that I should have brought a real GPS. Because real GPS wouldn't take you that way. Because you could tell it, hey, man, take me on the most populated way to go. I don't want to be out here in the sticks and stuff. And so, anyway, we wound up, after an hour and a half of treacherous driving, get to the shortcut. And then we pulled over, and the Subaru family pulled over, and they figured out that, okay, we're safe now. And then they left.
And that basically took us through the back end of part of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park.
Yeah.
And then let us out in a very rural area.
Yeah, some neighborhood with like 2 houses.
Yeah.
And they just looked at us as we went by like, well, they took the wrong way. So it's obvious to them. But
yeah.
The point is that if you can bring a GPS, you probably want to bring a GPS, especially if you're going to cruise through the mountains where there's no cell phone signal or spotty cell phone service, because your phone relies on triangulation for GPS, even though it has a GPS receiver built into it.
Yeah.
It's not the best. So it is what it is. So, speaking it is what it is. So I've been sort of kind of paying attention to this Conjuring house garbage that's going on. Because it's just trashy as it could be when it comes to like, oh, let's just take something else and ugly about the paranormal and experiences and stuff and just further cement people's ideas that everybody involved in this stuff is a nut job.
It kind of reminds me of how like there's other niche pop culture things that people are interested in, and it's always devolved into a reality TV show of those things, like Real Housewives of Hollywood. Hollywood's already famous. It's already full of entertainment and movies, but now we have to have a reality show about the housewives of, Hollywood.
Yeah, it's like, let's just take this and make it like professional wrestlers and, all
so like
it.
Now it's with the paranormal where it's turning into almost like talk show drama.
Yeah.
And this has just persisted to the point. This has been going on now actually since earlier this year, but it's devolved over the past few weeks.
Yeah. And so what's going on in a nutshell is with the Conjuring house and the Conjuring house owner who owns other real estate properties, basically fired someone that she brought on board after they had been volunteering and helping for a couple of years. Right. And so that person left their primary vocation, their job with benefits and all that stuff to go work for the Conjuring house. Well, evidently somewhere out of the blue, sometime later, this person that was supposed to get paid basically stopped getting paid because the lady could hear and see spirits, and these old, like 700-year-old, 200-year-old ghost was saying, hey, man, that guy, he's stealing stuff, taking stuff.
He's evil.
Taking cash from the cash box.
From the gift shop.
From the cash box in the gift shop.
Yeah.
It's the cash box. Whatever. Taking the money, basically embezzling, stealing.
But it's important to say that because the gift shop is constantly monitored by video cameras.
Yeah, it's got multiple. Well, I was going to get to that.
So,
just basically trying to point out that this lady is, aside from using, ghosts and spirits to help dictate her real life, it's like, well, I'm going to go ahead and fire this dude, and I'm not going to pay him, and I'm going to do all this stuff. And it's crazy.
Yeah, basically claiming not only, is he stealing, but he's like some sort of energetic vampire feeding off
he's a negative energy demon.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? So is schizophrenia. This lady's got some problems.
There's definitely some mental health issues here. And it's not just with this employee is where things have really come to head in the past few weeks. But prior to that, I want to say within the past month before that, this woman was letting go other individuals for the same reasons. Basically,
a bunch of them actually quit now.
Yeah, they either quit, walked out, or they were no longer welcome on the property.
Yeah.
And, all because an alleged 200-year-old ghost was telling this woman that these people were thieves, they were energetically attacking her, or they were doing harm to her and her business.
Well, the guy that basically sort of brought this all out and became public, there's like news clips and stuff about it. She evidently owes him like $9,000.
Yeah.
He's got no income because he gave it up to do this. And so this lady turned out to be a little bit of a crazy person. And somehow or another, Jason Hawes is involved, from Ghost Hunters.
Yeah.
The Ghost Hunters? What show did he do with, what's his face?
Ghost
I think
Hunters.
it's Ghost Hunters, right?
Yeah.
I think it may be because of his daughter somehow is involved, but we're not going to get into all that.
Yeah.
But I did want to grab a clip. This lady is now harassing Jason Hawes, and he's basically had to take some action.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And she's sending him these super crazy long novella text messages. Mm-hmm. And I just thought we'd play a clip because I started to get into it and watch it. I'm like, this is just too much. So plus I was a little aggravated being sick, but yeah, check this out.
1:23 in the afternoon, sorry. I'm told that it is you that continues to F with my life.
He's reading in
How
text.
does a high school graduate plumber, has-been paranormal celebrity, think that somehow he has all of this power or even the legal right to do so? That is interesting. It is. I am told that you are using black magic. If true, the thing about black magic, Jason, it always demands the unjust return. When you make a deal with demons, they always want your life in return. I read that in an article about the 52 demons who influence people to do and incite terrible things to happen to humanity, animals, and our environment. Okay? It goes on. Hang on. 20
All right. So pretty much he keeps talking about it. So this thing is it's not going to resolve itself other than some sort of legal means. And then even then at that point, I don't think it's going to get much resolution past that. But it's trying to, and the funny thing about this is that I actually watched this video, and when he was talking about it, he said, all right, I'm going to address it. He got another text. Oh, really? Yeah. Huh. So he got another text like right then. And so I'm like, okay, this is just nuts. And the last time we talked about some sort of paranormal awfulness was the tours.
Yeah.
And basically people just getting taken advantage of with the tour money and the tour guides and all that stuff. That dude just took all that money.
Which is also a complaint of this Conjuring house thing. Because, on top of Jason's daughter being involved with these people and her having trouble with this organization and this woman, there's been a buildup of drama at the location just trying to investigate the Conjuring house, including new stipulations with visiting, filling out forms, and if you turn out to be famous or an influencer, there's like additional criteria.
And fees. And
it just keeps going up and up and up. And we have some acquaintances that we've talked to who have experienced problems just trying to get into this house.
Yeah.
Or having their reservation canceled. So because somebody more famous came along or something else, And
there's a whole group of paranormal youngsters that are out there that primarily do this and make money off YouTube that have millions of views every time you do a video.
Yeah.
And they even said, we'll never go back.
Yeah.
They're like, we're not having it. And so, there's a whole community of YouTubers out there that the youngsters know. These dudes have millions of followers and they get millions of views every single time they do a video.
Yeah.
Unlike the famous people you see on TV that get 300 views in a video, these guys are millions deep and they're like, this is crazy. We're not doing any of this.
Millions deep, and they would have to pay a higher fee than if Greg and I were to go, they'd have to pay a much higher fee than we would. On top of that, any footage that they captured would be co-owned and had to be reviewed.
Yeah, and in perpetuity, rights and stuff to their footage would belong. They'd have to split them. You are nuts if you think for 1 second.
You can go to the Conjuring House's website and download the forms and read them yourself, and just be if this was any other genre, it would be absurd. It really would be.
Yeah.
So it started, when did this all start? 2 weeks ago? I don't know.
Oh, it's been going on longer than that. But the head sort of got blown off of it when the employee wound up showing up on the news. Brian Danazaro.
Yeah. Dancero.
Dancero, yeah. And he basically said he was fired from the house, featured in the film, Conjuring. And there's like a clip that I could probably play, right click to maybe explain it a little better. It's always risky playing clips on a podcast because you never know.
Yeah.
We begin with a Target 12 investigators exclusive Conjuring controversy. The old Conjuring house in Burrville is known for its paranormal activity, but a former employee says he was fired after the owner said a spirit spoke to her. Thank you for joining us. I'm Shannon Heggie.
I'm Mike Montecalvo. Now that former employee is fighting for money that he says he's owed. Target 12 investigator Sarah Grinelli is here now with the details. Sarah?
Brian Dancero says he worked at the Conjuring house for the past 3 years. That's until the owner, Jacqueline Nunez, fired him. She tells me she's a medium and that a spirit from the house told her Dancero was stealing. This is not your average home on Round Top Road in Burrville. It's known as the Conjuring House, made famous by a 2013 movie, and for years it's captivated the imaginations of those who seek paranormal experiences.
I would hear voices, of course, footsteps, of course.
Brian Dancero began working in the house in 2021.
One of the stories I have, which makes me smile to this day, is carrying heavy boxes in and getting ready to balance it to open the door, and literally the door opening for me as I approached it, allowing me to walk in with the boxes. And I did say thank you. What the is that?
In May, Dancero went full-time as the house's vice president of operations, but within 2 months, owner Jacqueline Nunez let him go after saying she'd heard from the house's 19th century owner. These are text messages she sent to Dancero.
John Arnold told me, you've been stealing money out of the cash box for the past 2 months. And I literally stopped and I actually corrected him, like, John Arnold, one of the original owners who died in 1839, and she said yes, and I want you to pay it back.
When asked to respond, Nunez told Target 12 in part, I and every person is entitled to experiences that bring understanding and meaning to our lives, including being informed or warned about wicked actors and actions.
We took a step in and stuff from the ceiling just fell straight down.
Seriously?
Yes.
It started the first day that we moved into the house.
Author Andrea Perrin told 12 News at the time the movie was inspired by her book that detailed the Perrin family's experience after they bought the home in the 1970s.
Anyway, yeah. So it kind of rolls into some other things, and that was Channel 12 News or whatever. We have a link to that in the show notes as well. Kind of check it out.
And we had watched the interview where the guy did a video where he talked about what was happening.
He did it from his car.
Yeah, he had started, I guess, part-time or, working in 2021, but was offered full-time and left his other full-time position.
Yeah, with benefits and all that stuff.
Yeah.
He was in the medical profession, I think, something like whatever it was, EMT.
But yeah, he had a good job with benefits. He has a health condition, so he definitely needs health care. And the first warnings were that the employer never got the health care taken care of. And then it just kind of...
Now, I'm going to be the one that's... Okay, first off, the guy is not very smart for doing that. And good-hearted or not, somebody should have been like, I don't know, man. I'm sure somebody did. If I'd been working there, I'd be like, I don't know, man. Even volunteering or have her, because you just get a feeling.
Well, he filled out all the necessary information. And
it doesn't matter if the person is handing you all the stuff to do. If you... as nutty as she is, being a medium or whatever, flaky, whatever you want to call her, right? That should have been, you should get, smoke signals should be coming up. Spider sense should be tingling.
I don't know.
I wouldn't have fallen for it.
I don't understand. See, this is the thing. When it comes to paranormal, if you are going to make a living, you have to run it like a business. You can't rely on ghosts and emotions to run your business.
Right, which should have been more. It should have been evident to him that's what she was all about. He worked her for a couple of years, so he should have known.
Yeah.
So idiosyncrasies and weird stuff aside, he should have had a little bit. I'm not saying he's the bad guy here. He's not. No. He's definitely taken advantage of. But I don't know.
It's just I know
garbage in, garbage out, right?
And I know people like younger than us, and even young adults. They want to work in the paranormal, and this is the type of industry they're walking into.
Right.
It's almost like unbridled Hollywood of like the 30s and 40s.
It's almost like what people think about people that enjoy paranormal is in some ways true. Like that maybe the stereotypes have some truth to them.
Yeah. So, I don't know.
But I hope that the owner of the Conjuring house gets fined $25,000 and has to make do for all the people there. And that maybe she'll let the property go to someone who wants to be a part of it or take care of it or whatever. Because there's so many different instances where property is just being snatched up by companies and corporations and stuff that they're just there to milk it for money. And then when it doesn't work out or the money stops, they just get rid of it. I don't know if she's one of them, but she does have multiple properties. So she's a real estate investment type person.
Yeah.
And a medium, evidently. So I don't know. Everybody's a little flaky.
She's a lawyer.
In this
That's what it is.
Oh, yeah.
She's
Real
a
estate lawyer?
non-practicing lawyer.
Oh, yeah. A non-practicing lawyer. Why anyway, so it's garbage. This whole thing is garbage. And actually, I think the last thing we were talked about when it comes to some paranormal drama was Zach Bagans and that kid. Which I don't even know what the deal is with them. Their show got canceled. And everybody's like, it's Zach Bagans' fault. And it's like, yeah. I mean, he catches a lot. He gets a lot of flack. I think he's autistic, personally. I think Zach Bagans has, a little bit of a...
Might be on the spectrum.
Yeah, and I think that he just, he is what he is. But at the same time, whether you like him or hate him or whatever, he is Ghost Adventures, and he's responsible for everything that happens with that show. Okay. He owns it. And his people are employees, and he's got to keep it going. He is. That's the thing. And that show's lasted longer than the rest of them, drama aside. So, I don't know. This whole thing it just makes us all look stupid if you enjoy this sort of thing. Although you can sit back and definitely eat the greasy popcorn going, ooh, I wonder what's going to happen next. But it's just kind of like.
It is, but then.
Because then when you see, here's the thing, when you talk to like regular people and go, hey, your place is kind of haunted. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, can I come by and check it out? Maybe do a little investigation? And they're like, no, because all you guys are nut jobs. Have you seen what's going on? You know what I'm saying? It's like it doesn't make it any easier to randomly approach somebody and go, hey.
Yeah.
Can we come check out your stuff just, late at night? When nobody's around with a bunch of stuff and make some noise?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's pretty sad. I hope hopefully they'll get it fixed and things will get rectified. I seen this and it basically triggered me.
Okay.
In an American Revolution kind of way. And I was like, well, what? So, now this guy is a UK police chief. His name is Mark Rowley. He's in the knighthood, so he's Sir Mark Rowley. The UK has been having problems, and France. There's been some riots, some protests. Primarily about immigration and things like that, and wanting their country first and whatever. So it's Now in UK, I guess in Canada now too. If you say things on social media that they think are damaging or dangerous or they don't agree with,
inciting.
Well, that's the term. That's the blanket term.
Okay.
So they can come get you and persecute you, and a lot of stuff that they think is so inciting is not inciting at all, but it is for them, right? And these are the powers that be, not the regular people. And so this guy puts out a threat, and there's more than just like the threat. There was some context behind it and what he was saying, but effectively boiled down to is that he brought up that saying things that could be insightful or whatever is a crime in the UK, and regardless of where you are or how popular or famous you are, they could come get you, and he was basically going to prosecute. Right. And, and he's, and I'm like, what? You're going to come to the U.S., arrest somebody for a post they made on Facebook, arrest them for a post or a statement they made on Facebook, and then extradite them back to the UK to stand trial? And I'm like, who the hell does this guy think he is? And it's like this dude, and he's already had problems. Like, they've been, ideas of dual level policing and all this other crazy stuff. And a reporter asked him a question, and he knocked a microphone out of the hand. And so he's got his own issues going on. It's pretty stressful for him, I guess. Mm-hmm. But to think that you're going to come over to the U.S. and arrest somebody for a post that they made on Facebook because you think that it's inciting something. Who determines what level of statement is insightful or inciting, or terroristic or any of that stuff.
So
that's the problem I have. Some knucklehead can look at a statement, take it out of context, and go, "Oh yeah, I don't like that at all. Go arrest that person." And I'm like, "Wait a minute."
In context and social value, America has already fought that for decades. In fact, since 1868, where there have been numerous cases of, and I'm going to use a Larry Flint thing here, I know it when I see it.
Yeah.
That has been 1868, 1957, 1913, 1964. Justice Potter Stewart, he was the one who coined that whole, I shall not today attempt to further to define the kinds of material I understand to be embraced with that description, and perhaps I could never succeed in intelligibly doing so, but I know it when I see it, and blah is not that.
Exactly.
So, in taking this current news article in that stance, you have to, again, it's going to be subjective, and the only thing you have other than a subjective viewpoint is the social value, meaning the after effects of whatever was said. Now, how do we weigh those after effects? By retweets, by somebody physically attacking another person, by riots in the streets? I mean, can we really say X riot happened because this politician said this or this figurehead said that? We can't attribute an entire riot or an entire movement to one statement.
Right. And if you're the kind of person that does that sort of thing, you're wrong.
So,
and you have to keep in mind, England is not, they're socialist. It's basically, they're socialist, and it is what it is. But the idea that this UK police commissioner is going to come after us, U.S. citizens, and he basically said he's going to come after Elon Musk, and Elon Musk was like, do it.
So it is a matter of, yes, a socialist-based culture.
The reason why I bring it up, socialism, as far as how they're based, right, is the fact that they can limit what you say.
But they are also currently, the UK is just like the United States right now in some circumstances, where unfortunately it is a country divided, and it is socialism, but then there's an extreme form of nationalism that's also running rampant. It devolves quickly. Every country is a mess right now.
But nationalism isn't running rampant, as you say. They're stepping out and saying, okay, it's time to put the country first.
So
and France has done the same thing. See, France started it because they're like, we're done. We're tired of all this.
Well, France has taken this police commissioner. Yes, he's a UK one.
No, I mean in general. The riots in France were about nationalism and basically putting the country forward.
These people are taking these things and pushing forward because they do truly believe that they can hold people accountable.
Yeah, they're trying. So we got this little clip for you. Figure out which one I want to play. Here we go. Here's what he said. I guess I have to press the button extra hard. Here we go.
We will throw the full force of the law at people. And whether you're in this country committing crimes on the streets or committing crimes from further afield online, we will come after you.
Talk to me about that, because we have seen some high-profile figures whipping up the hatred. You talked about it in there with the officers, in fact, about this being added to by online commentary. I mean, I'm even thinking of the likes of Elon Musk getting involved. What are you considering when it comes to dealing with people who are whipping up this kind of behaviour from behind a keyboard, maybe in a different country?
Being a keyboard warrior does not make you safe from the law. You can be guilty of offences of incitement, of stirring up racial hatred. There are numerous terrorist offences regarding the sort of publishing of material. All of those offences are in play if people are provoking hatred and violence on the streets, and we will come after those individuals just as we will physically confront on the streets the thugs and the obs who are causing the problems for communities. We will.
Okay, so yeah, I get what he's trying to say, but no law in England, aside from the universal laws like murder and things like that, is going to allow him to come over to the U.S. and arrest somebody and get extradition. Because for whatever reason, a statement you made, You know, and I would like to think that if that would be the case, if it actually did happen, it would be the most horrible statement you could possibly make. And it'd be like, okay, well, maybe you went too far on your little keyboard warrior thing. But yeah, it's like, hold on a second. You're going to come over here and do what now? I don't think so.
Commissioner is warning people in America.
Here's a regular
do not
British guy.
post things that, you know, the police commissioner doesn't like, because he will extradite you, he will jail you, he will come after you. Now, obviously, this is quite an astonishing thing for a UK police commissioner to talk about American citizens. No one in the UK, police chiefs, even the King, Prime Minister, it doesn't matter who you are, no one in the UK has power over American citizens, and vice versa. There's no one in America that has power over any UK citizen. So I think this police commissioner needs to check the rule book. He needs to check his laws before stating rubbish like this. There's nothing that he or anyone in the police can do about Bob in Missouri talking about the riots. There's literally nothing you can do, mate. This is basically what he said. So we will throw the full force of the law at people. And whether you're in this country committing crimes on the streets or commenting crimes from further afield online, like America, we will come after you. That is the Metropolitan Police Commissioner, Sir Mark Rowley. He's a sir as well. Of course he is. But
yeah. There you go. Talk trash on Facebook. Some British Bobby's going to show up.
Warning people.
What? I'm trying to do it again, but yeah. So of course that brought out a response. And see, I don't like the idea that somebody thinks they can do that, right? Man, because the way things are going in our own country, I wouldn't be surprised if they let it happen.
Yeah.
Be a warning. They don't like when we talk about stuff in general.
Yeah.
And they can lie to you. It's allowed. You can't lie to them, but they can lie to you. It angers me. It's like, come on, man. We have these rules and things that are put in place, and the idea that you have free speech and stuff to make changes when things are terrible. You can speak out, hey, I don't like this. But only as it suits who's in power or whatever. No, man. It shall not infringe. I think when you start skirting around it and doing it, it's when you just chips away at it. Chips away at democracy. Because it's supposed to work regardless of what side. Whether the person you like in office is in there or the person you hate is in office. Whatever, man. And government's got enough problems. Because they're all shitbags. All of them.
Okay.
And so there you go. Come to my house. Because I called you a feces container.
Okay.
And see how angry and how bad that goes, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. First off, I'm not answering the door. Am I being detained? Do you have a warrant? Let me see it. It's just dumb. I mean, this guy, he's obviously fired up in the moment and he shot his mouth off. And the UK people are more hardcore about this stuff. They're like, oh, of course. Yeah. I don't know. I just thought, like, what?
I'm just going to start.
It was, how dare ye think ye could come over here. And then it went into a whole trend that I started seeing where British people are flabbergasted that only 5% of Americans own tea kettles.
I'm going to hold on to this travel tip that does well with tourism. This guy's going to come all the way to the United States, and the number one tip from all UK vacationers and tourists, I had no idea how big the United States was.
Yeah. He's going to land somewhere and say, all right, let's get in the car. We got to go to North Carolina. And they're like, all right, 12 hours later. It's like, do you not know? They really don't. They don't. I sat in a freaking bar talking to an Irish guy and a British guy waiting for the ferry to go across because we didn't want to take the channel, which is the Channel Tunnel.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, do you go visit your parents? I said, yeah. I said, you live in North Carolina. It's 8 hours away. And he's like, 8 hours away? How do you get there? So we drive. He said, well, how many days does it take you to get there? I'm like, days? It takes 8 hours, man. He's like, oh, how many miles? And I told him it's 400 miles. And he just could not understand.
Yeah.
And he was like, and you do it all one time? And it's like, yeah, we have highways, dude. The reason why our cars are big is our roads are big. We have an interstate highway system that's put in place by Dwight D. Eisenhower. We have big roads.
Oh, no, I had some people come visit, and they thought that they could hit up Linville Falls area, the Blue Ridge Parkway, Maggie Valley, Cherokee, the Koala Boundary, and the Great Smoky Mountains in 24 hours.
I mean, I'm sure you could. You're not going to see anything.
No, as in they thought they could get it done in like an afternoon.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, of course you can't. Not at all. It's like, this is...
And here's the best part. They were going to do it from the Blue Ridge Parkway.
Oh.
At 45 miles an hour.
That's the fast part. Usually it's like 35.
Well, now that Asheville's got like all this construction going on, it is actually the faster way.
Yeah. I've talked to people in New Mexico that are like that. They fly over and they're like, we're going to go to the Grand Canyon and here and there. And I'm like, oh, how many days are you doing that?
Yeah.
I'm like, what? We got 6 hours. It's like, it's like you're not even going to get to the Grand Canyon from New Mexico in 6 hours. It's like, I think it's like 6 hours and 30 minutes or whatever it is just to get there. And then you're not going to see anything. It's like this place is pretty sprawling. The United States is pretty large.
It has a lot of keyboard warriors.
Yeah. Well, the world does, just in general. But yeah, I'm trying to think of that. I think it was a Mike Tyson quote where he basically said that basically some people need a punch in the mouth for something like that. Whatever it was. Basically saying you can talk a lot of trash, but you know, your values change when you get punched in the mouth. And if he came over here, he wouldn't be happy when he got punched in the face. Because somebody would sock him. You know?
Oh, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you go. So yeah, it changes people's attitudes. And you're like, hold on. It's like, wait a minute. I've been socked in the mouth.
Oh gosh.
So anyway, not to promote violence. That's not the thing. But you know, it would be a big, how dare you come over here?
Yeah.
So, but I don't get involved in that stuff anyway. Like I don't feel like it's necessary. The only thing I get involved in when it comes to social media is when somebody posts a video. It says, you'll never believe what happened. And the video goes for like 3 minutes and then I can't believe what happened because you never showed me. So I don't really know what happened.
Yeah.
And I'll always post the same thing. I guess I'll never know what happened to your kayak after you installed whatever.
Oh, no.
Because the video will end because they want you to go see the video. And I'm like, no, I guess I'll never know.
I hate the Facebook couple that posts the 18-minute long videos and there's no conclusion.
Yeah. I'm on to those now. If it's 2 minutes in and I'm like, you're dragging us out. Thumbs down for you. And I move on with my life.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, I'm going to come over here. Yeah, I'm going to. And Elon Musk is on a roll because somebody threatened him. He's like, according to Professor Suck on these nuts. It's like, yeah. All right. Let's talk about some good stuff, right?
Okay.
So there's a parrot who has broken the Guinness World Record for identifying objects.
That's pretty awesome.
That means animals are getting smart, and it won't be long before animals are smarter than we are.
I've been watching this one TikTok kid that does nothing but like really cool animal facts, and ravens, crows, and gray parrots are some of the top intelligent birds. And he makes jokes all the time that they're getting smarter. They are definitely getting smarter.
Yeah.
This African gray parrot named Apollo, he got the Guinness World Record by identifying an astonishing 12 objects within the span of 3 minutes. And he was fueled by the reward of pistachio nut. He correctly named such objects as a book, a sock, and even the character name of an action figure from the Super Mario Brothers.
Imagine what would happen if you offered him macadamia nuts.
He would go nuts.
Yeah.
He'd just start cataloging everything.
Yeah. So he's a 4-year-old bird, and he does have a huge social media following on TikTok and YouTube. He's trained by content creators Dalton and Victoria, and they were inspired by the methods of animal psychologist Irene Pepperberg. And so Mason's mission is to spread awareness of the natural intelligence found in animals.
Oh my goodness! So he's only 4 years old.
Yeah, I just said that.
He's
got like almost 100 years left in him.
I mean,
these birds can live for a very long time.
40 to 60 years.
Yeah.
He's going to learn even longer. So much more. That's so exciting.
I think he's got to be challenged. He's going to need some good rewards. He's not stupid. Like, I'm tired. He's probably started out with peanuts. And he's like, I'll give you 2 words, but just step it up a little bit. Sunflowers. How I eat nuts all the time. Well, I eat nuts like you for breakfast, right? You don't have time for garbage nuts.
Keeps getting smarter. Maybe we can, like, we'll get you investment stock in, like, the pistachio company or something.
Yeah.
But that's so cool. I mean, he's only 4 and he knows you can identify 12 items.
Well, my fear is that we're eventually going to figure out that all animals have some degree of intelligence and they all have their own form of consciousness, and we've just been eating them.
Don't say that.
Because, come on. The idea that, like, people were shocked that dogs have dreams and all that stuff. It's like, why are you shocked? I just thought that's just how it was. I mean, everybody who's owned a dog knows when they're having dreams and nightmares. Dogs, I mean, come on. We know they think. You see them thinking. You know what I mean? Sometimes they're not thinking about anything at all, but sometimes you see them thinking, plotting, scheming. When you leave, I'm getting in that trash can.
Cat scheme.
Yeah, they watch you throw a dog bone in the trash can. They're like, oh, hell no. I'm getting it. We've seen it. It's like you could see them thinking. I was like, don't even think about it.
And then there's other animals on this planet that, like, okay, I had, what was it, 2 years ago, I made the decision to stop eating octopi because apparently they're even smarter than dogs.
Well, to be fair,
yeah.
You shouldn't eat that junk anyway, but I've eaten my fill of squid, calamari on pizzas and Hurghada, Egypt. But.
I was a little kid eating dried cuttlefish. That's like a jerky treat in the Pacific Islands, and I loved it. And now I can't bring myself to eat it because...
Well, I'll eat a squid. Octopus
even
is a little
squid
smarter.
Are smart.
Yeah,
so,
but they're less smart than octopus.
And so we have octopi, like passing the mirror test. We have crows that can remember people they dislike for up to 5 years.
Yeah, that's a long time to hold a grudge.
In fact, they'll let other crows in the neighborhood know, hey, that jerk lives over there.
Yeah. See that guy? He's a real ass. Yeah.
Crows will actually learn to release their bowels when they're upset at a person, unlike seagulls who just let it fly.
Me too.
But yeah, and these gray parrots, historically, there are many gray parrots. Like, didn't Churchill have one that lived forever?
Yeah, they live a long time.
Yeah, and they're very smart. So this is...
Even like cockatiels, those things live for a long time. Yeah. You know what lives really long and it really shocked me?
What?
Hermit crab.
Yeah.
They can live like 10 years.
Yeah.
You get them for like $1.50. You're like, oh, this is a great little pet. You know what I mean? A hamster, they don't live that long. Hermit crab can live for a very long time.
So that same kid that I've been watching TikToks, Casual Geographic, he dropped a bomb on everybody about a month or two ago about people whose parents and them, when they were kids, thought their hamster died. Half of those hamsters did not die. They went into a deep torrid or that hibernation state.
Yeah.
Because they were like maybe not near a window with sunlight. So it looked like it was dead. So you and your parents grieved and probably buried it in a shoebox.
And then it died.
Yeah, and then it died.
That's as bad as throwing like a turtle in the water because you think it's a water turtle and it's not. It's like...
Yeah.
All right, well, that went from being that's a downward turn.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Okay.
So speaking of terrible, so there's been a video that we have a link to it, but basically a Bigfoot was photographed by a game camera in North Carolina. Mm-hmm. And I know you can't see the picture, but to me, the picture looks like it could be a Bigfoot, right? With his head down, back to the camera, sort of the back and side of it to the camera with long arms, right? And the weird feet, like legs in the back, like with heels and stuff, and hairy. And it looks pretty credible. I'm like, whoa, what is that? Some people are saying it's not really a Bigfoot, that it's more of a dog man because it has almost like a haunch, or like, dogs have the balls of their feet and it goes up to that little ankle bone that juts out, more like a dog leg, Mm-hmm. So, it doesn't necessarily say where it is, but there's a clear view of what appears to be a mysterious bipedal creature that some believe could be Bigfoot. And the eyebrow-raising image reported earlier this week by way of a Reddit post from an individual who claimed to stumble upon the picture online. But beyond the assertion that the photo was taken by a game camera in North Carolina, the circumstances surrounding the picture are shrouded in mystery.
See, I don't like that. If you can't tell me.
Well, the image has sparked considerable discussion as to whether or not it was genuine, and if so, what weird creature might it actually be. And to what some people are suggesting is that the odd animal in the photo may be the legendary Bigfoot, possibly looking downward in a fashion to obscure its head. And due to the creature's unusual legs, others have posted that it may be the infamous Dogman cryptid. More skeptical observers point out the dubious origin of the image and argue that it's an AI-generated or simply a product of some other kind of digital manipulation. Or the animal is probably a bear made to look mysterious.
Well, that's the thing about these, like, average everyday consumer level trail cameras. I mean, I've got like 3 images of a squirrel that looks like really weird.
Yeah.
Looks like a magic carpet in one of them because it just moved too quickly. It
is an odd picture, and that's the reason. We don't normally try to talk too much about pictures because you can't really see it. But
yeah.
It's definitely an odd picture, and when I first looked at it, I was like, what is that? And I can see where somebody might think it's a bear or digitally manipulated or whatever, but at the same time, I don't know. Do I think it's Bigfoot? No.
No.
Because even though I can't identify it, it doesn't set off my hair, like my back of my hairs on the back of my neck haven't gone up. Because sometimes I see pictures, I'm like, ooh, what is that?
I just think this is a hoax of some sort.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a fat guy with...
It's weird how much stocky detail is in the feet, calves,
and the legs,
butt, and thighs.
Buttocks.
But then the more you get up towards the shoulder area and everything is like obscured or turned away from the camera, that the image actually, in my opinion, is less good. So I'm like, I don't know, I'm not feeling it.
Yeah, so. I mean, I have some doubts too, because if this was like, say a person wearing a suit, from what I can see is if the person stood up straight, the hands would go above the knees to the point where it'd be like more humanistic. Evidently, primates, including Bigfoot, have really long arms.
Yeah.
And they would look like regular, not so long arms. I don't know. It's an unusual picture. I thought it was interesting to the point where I'm like, see, it's just bad enough to where if you could rule out that it hasn't been digitally manipulated, then you'd really have no idea what it is.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Because there is a ton of keyboard cryptozoologists and unidentified animal experts out there. But yeah, it did have a little bit of a healthy debate going back and forth.
Yeah, and I do want to say, building off this conversation,
you can go to Coast to Coast AM's Facebook page, and there should be a picture there.
We're going to be putting our trail camera back out just to see if we can capture any weird ththings too.
Yes.
So, yeah. It's getting to be that time of year.
Yeah, spooky season.
Yeah.
You get to see the animals that are out there. And you're like, whoa, I didn't know that was out here. It's like, probably should do it anyway.
Yeah. I'm getting very curious as to, some of the weird noises we hear and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I think probably the last thing we're going to talk about, I was going to talk about, there was a post that was submitted to Phantoms and Monsters about an alleged Mothman eyewitness.
Mm-hmm.
And they described hearing a flapping noise. And what was funny about it, or the reason why I thought I was going to include it, is because they were by the domes in the TNT area, and they heard some crazy stuff, and they left.
Yeah.
And the way they described it was similar to the stuff that we heard when we were there. And I spent a good day trying to find the video footage of us at the domes.
Yeah.
Where the camera went crazy, and I kept hearing weird noises. And I'm like, this sounds familiar, and I cannot find that footage anywhere. Remember, I went through all of our hard drives?
Yeah.
Because I've only had that camera do odd stuff like 2 or 3 times, and it's always been in a spooky place.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I remember hearing that and then watching the video get all crazy. And I wanted to be able to sort of compare what they said to the footage that we had. And the only thing I could find is pictures. I can't find the audio or the video. And I know I had it because I actually made shorts out of it for a couple of different things. And it's like that video is gone. And I heard weird flapping and had video anomaly happen, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, what's going on? And at first I thought maybe it was the memory card, but no, recorded for like an hour after that with no issues whatsoever. And I've never had problems with that camera other than a couple weird places, like with battery drain and things like that. You know, I'm like, what is going on? And I could not find it. So I know this doesn't do anybody listening to the podcast any good whatsoever, other than to say we too experienced some weirdness at the TNT domes, and the fact that I can't really call it a fact, but the idea that these people that had this experience was a relatively recent experience at the domes.
Yeah.
The TNT area. Igloos, if you will. So, you know, one of our listeners, Ike, he's pretty close to that area. So I'm curious as to if he's heard anything or whatever about it. So we do have a link to it. And it does take you to Phantoms and Monsters if you want to check it out. Yeah. Flapping Wings Sound and Shadow Man experienced at TNT plant, which is, I'll just tell you what they said. Because Phantoms and Monsters receive submissions. So sometimes they're brand new, sometimes they're many decades old or whatever, but it kind of is what it is. Here's what they said. I went to Point Pleasant, West Virginia, August 2015, which is pretty recent compared to some of the other stuff I've seen. So this person went with their hubby and kids, and they'd like to go to odd places, haunted, etc. And they found what some call the TNT igloos at the old West Virginia Ordnance Plant. We were on a dirt back road. The sun was setting. An odd car would drive by slowly as we were getting our gear ready. And it says, I joked about scary movies and how the locals hate out-of-towners and like to take it out on them. And that's, I don't see that. Most locals are like, yeah, come on. We need the money. But whatever, right? At least that hasn't been our experience. They said it was getting dark. We had our flashlights and EMF meters. And I went over the directions and saw on the internet to go. And this is when they walked down and had the pond on the left, which is the same way we went, same way everybody goes, right? Mm-hmm. There were so many weeds. I can't breathe. That's why I have to stop. Yeah. So many weeds and overgrowth that it was hard to find. And then one of the kids yelled, you know, there it is. And they said that they seen a pathway about 20 feet long to the right. And the weeds were in shape of a tunnel. Probably
from tourists pulling and lifting them to get through.
Yeah, that sort of jives on a couple of the domes. You have to kind of push your way through. Yeah. And then it said, all four of us girls would have to duck and run through them quickly after my hubby checks for spiders and webs, that's convenient. Right. We got into the TNT igloo, and you could see a ton of graffiti and garbage and dirt on the bottom, and it's pitch black at this point. And the only light was from our dollar store flashlights. And they tried to take a photo with their tablet, right? But it was all black. Well, yeah, of course. It's like we started talking and playing with the Echo, which I did too. Echo is great in that place, right?
Yeah.
It's like, and then I told everyone quiet. I heard something, and they listened, and all I heard was a noise, right? They all heard it. And so the kids started getting scared, and my hubby, the big man that he is, says, it's time to go. And she's like, I didn't want to leave. There was more to explore. So my family left me, running back to the car, and I was all alone in the igloo. When I got back in the car, they drove off, right? Excuse me.
And she asked everyone what the noises sounded like to them, the noise in or around the igloo. And everyone said, wings flipping, big wings flapping above. My daughter's sensitive. She said that she saw a shadow man in the woods and a weird orb. Well, we came and we left in one piece, so mission accomplished.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But
now there's a note that says, I have gathered various EVP recordings from many trips to the West Virginia Ordnance Works, and the flapping wing sound has been reported by several investigators over time. I have heard it as well. I believe there's a very strong guardian spirit, and that's from Lon Strickland, who runs Phantoms and Monsters. So I don't know.
I don't know.
We had weird experience there.
Yeah, because I wanted to stay as well, and I wanted to explore more. And then,
well, why didn't we stay?
Because the sun was setting.
What else?
And we had places to go.
Yes, we had to go to another convention, and that other convention was 4 hours away, and we had to be there.
Yeah.
So, you're making it like I'm just like a bad guy running to the car. Like, no, we got to go.
But
we did go back and eat pizza.
Yeah.
So, which is pretty good pizza. But the bread was better. The
pizza rolls.
Pepperoni rolls, yeah.
Yeah, they were really good. So.
Yeah, so I thought that was pretty strange. All right, so let's move into this, and we're going to get ready to wrap up the podcast here pretty soon.
Yeah.
I seen this today, and I kind of thought I'd put it in here. Sort of dystopian in the way that you think you're doing good, but you're really not. And these are 23 well-intentioned acts that don't make things better.
Yeah.
Because there's certain things that we do that I personally have thought, this isn't doing any good at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why are we doing this? And you're doing it because everybody says you should do it because it does good. And you're like, like when you find out that your town recycles and you put it in special trash cans and it all goes to the dump all in the same place and nobody really sorts through any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're just doing it. Just to say they're doing it to make people feel good. It's like, want to save the planet, use reuse. I can't even say it. Use reusable grocery bags.
Yeah.
And little quotes like, well, be prepared to use them a lot. Reusable bags require between 28 and 200 times as much energy to produce as disposable bags. So be prepared to take those reusable bags on your weekly grocery run. And remember to bring them in the store for 4 straight years.
Yeah.
And then when they get so worn out and gross that you decide to toss them out, they'll take up more landfill space and take longer to decompose. So you're thinking by using like a reusable bag versus a plastic bag is better, but it's just not. It takes more to make it, and it takes longer to break down in landfill. And so the worth of it is you got to use them for 4 years straight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot on here that's kind of angering.
Of course, it's triggering.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about those.
So.
Want to feel better about your gasoline footprint? Try biofuel. It's like, well, I hope you're not a fan of the planet because 90% of biofuel is made from corn ethanol, and growing corn uses a ridiculously large amount of water, causes epic erosion, and requires a nitrogen-rich fertilizer that's been linked to algae blooms and huge aquatic death zones in the Gulf of Mexico. And on top of that, not only does this type of ethanol fail to reduce our energy consumption, it actually increases it. No biofuel for you. You don't like it?
I don't know. I'm on.
Oh, here you go.
The one there's
do number 19. I'm sure you'll like that one.
So this one, and then there's one further down that makes me very mad because I have experience with nonprofits. But number 19 says, if you buy local, you'll save the energy wasted on transporting food. And then it says, but growing food is much more wasteful. The thing is, people expect to enjoy the same foods they always have, but grown locally. Over 90% of food-related emissions don't come from transportation, but production. So if food is grown in a place where it can't be produced efficiently, it'll end up being more harmful to the environment than food that's been efficiently grown and then flown in. And this is not true in every case, because we have things unfortunately working in our favor, like climate change. North Carolina is a great example of how our changing environment and our changing world is actually allowing North Carolina to grow a wider range of crops. They are also missing the point here with food-related emissions coming from production as opposed to transportation. Now, yes, a majority of food-related emissions are from production, but that's from commercially grown food. When you work at a small-scale farm, and believe me, a small-scale farm can be something like 200 acres. That's still considered a small-scale farm. The cost of production is less with small-scale as opposed to commercial. You are still doing the environment a favor when you buy, like, locally we have 2 different microgreen farms. Microgreens are exotic. But they're grown in greenhouses. They're not driven around. There's people in there picking them, taking care of them, making sure they're fed well. It's still way more efficient than having microgreens flown in from California. So this is not true because they are viewing it through the lens of commercially bought and sold foods. It still saves the environment and also saves the economy when you buy from a local farmer or a regional farmer or try to implement the
All right. Yeah. That's enough.
That and
okay.
You as humans, we need to learn how to eat seasonally again. We used to and we don't.
We need to be eating food that's actual food.
True.
So here's another one. You might feel good about donating to the Wounded Warrior Project. Don't. They'll waste your money.
This one makes me mad because they say,
well, while comparable veterans charities spend more than 90% of their income on vets, the Wounded Warrior Project only gives about 60% of their annual bank to the cause, and the rest is spent on elaborate parties and team building stuff for staff. And it wasn't until after a 2016 CBS investigation that the CEO and COO were fired.
Here's the thing. There are other charity organizations that are far more guilty, like certain breast cancer organizations, where less than 20% actually goes towards breast cancer, research in breast cancer.
Well, yeah, this is just an example of, there's a lot of charities that you really should be looking at, like how much actually goes towards what the charity's purpose is versus funding and all that stuff.
That leads to the one that I want to talk about, which is number 14. When you donate, you can earmark your money for a cause, but you really shouldn't. Charity funding tends to be a lot like high school. The cool kids get all the attention, while the nerdy ones are left to their own devices. So the sexy, high-profile projects get way overfunded, while less exciting projects never get the money they need. Even choosing a specific country can cause a problem. So this is very true in certain circumstances, but this is like large organizations. If you're donating to a local charity or a local nonprofit, if you earmark your money, what happens is if they can't spend that money by that fiscal year, that nonprofit has to leap through their own elbows to manage that. If you do not earmark it, then it gets put, depending on what state you live in, it puts an additional thing, and it cannot be utilized until certain benchmarks are met. So, depending on the type of nonprofit, like if it's a food nonprofit, sure, earmark it specifically for buying food or training volunteers. That's great. But if it's something like a veterans project, don't earmark it. That way they can use the money immediately.
We just give money straight to them.
I mean, this is obviously talking to rich people.
No, I know, but if you have the ability to, like say if you want to support a local animal shelter.
Yeah.
Just go give them the money.
Yeah.
Yeah, they used to say, just bring us dog food and all that stuff. And it's like, no, don't bring them dog food.
Yeah.
Give them money because then they have to store that dog food. And say you bring your, kindness to your heart, you bring 15, 30, 100 pounds of 100-pound bags of feed. If they can't feed them all that 100-pound bags of feed, then they got to figure out what to do with it.
Yeah. And
they may not be allowed to do anything but keep that feed there. And if they can't take the dog food or feed and use it, then they have to dispose of it, because some places, if you give them a donation, it can only be used in that facility for that. So they can't
even give it to another shelter.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're better off just saying, here's $10. And maybe they'll buy that dog a squishy toy.
Or
or maybe some wipes or something to keep the kennels clean or whatever. Gloves for the people who work. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
You're better off just donating it directly if you can.
Sadly, since it's puppy season, there's like pregnant mommy dogs, unfortunately, that are ending up in shelters. They need things like, milk, supplements, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, so just give them the money.
Yeah, just give them the money.
And if you're in a grocery store or somewhere, you're like, would you like to round up for whatever? Why are you doing that for them? Yeah. You're just making the corporation's taking the money that you give them and they're adding it and saying, oh, look what we gave.
Yeah.
Don't.
Yeah.
And there's no way you can know if the little rounded up money that you give, your 10 cents or whatever, is actually going to anywhere that you want it to go to.
Yeah.
Especially when like Roundup for the Children. All right, through what organization? Like how? You're better off just giving money directly if you can.
So
here's a good one, or kind of where good intentions backfired. In 2005, England launched the Beat Bullying campaign. Right?
Yeah.
And say like little bracelets and stuff, little bracelets. And it says, and a bunch of kids got bullied. The problem was the bright blue Beat Bullying wristbands were lures for bullies.
So bad.
Yeah, and the campaign was so popular that the bracelets were sold on eBay for $32 a piece.
What?
Yeah, but it wasn't just the profit that motivated the bullies. The bracelets also identified the kids who were afraid of bullies and turned them into targets. So the kid wears a Beat Bullying bracelet because he's afraid of bullies, and the bullies know where to go. Oh, there's one.
Oh my God. Remember when the Live Strong bracelets were going for like $11 and $12 and these are going for $32?
And this is good intention when it comes to this sort of thing. It reminds me, like, we were in Norway and these high school kids had to do community service type stuff for something for school. And they were going running around handing out condoms, and the condoms had like a little book on the outside about STDs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And what they did was it was piece of paper, right? And they folded it in half. Mm-hmm. They slid the condom in, and they stapled it so it all stayed together. So they were handing these out, doing their civic responsibility thing, but they were all stapled through the middle. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that's probably not good. So we even pointed out to him, because we were a bunch of sailors. We're like, hey, man, you probably shouldn't give these out. Well, because you stapled right through the center of it. So, it's like, this is probably no good. You put like at least 4 holes in this thing.
Yeah. Oh, God.
They didn't care. They're like, oh, I got a whole bag of them. They were just giving them out to everybody. So I'm like, well, good intentions, right?
Yeah.
Maybe some better supervision.
Wow, that one's awful.
Which one, Nebraska?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do that one.
Okay, so Nebraska's safe haven law applied to any child up to age 18. So parents started dumping their teens. Now, the idea behind safe haven laws is that rather than abandoning babies, panicked mothers can drop them off at any hospital without repercussions and typically without any questions asked. There's some places where you can actually turn in your child anonymously, in several other states as well. But when Nebraska offered safe haven to children of any age, 35 older children from as far away as Florida were abandoned by fed-up parents. So the law was quickly amended.
Yeah.
That's awful.
It's kind of funny, but not funny.
Yeah.
I was in the Navy. We had a guy who was basically put in the military by his family.
Yeah.
Because as soon as he turned 18, they took him down there and they filled out all the paperwork and he signed it and they left him and then they moved. And he wasn't like a violent, like a criminal or anything. He had problems. He was not, now we would say he had severe autism.
Yeah.
He was functional, but, enough to join the military, but not enough to fend for himself. And, you had to be on top of him with things like, I don't remember his name, so I could say this, but identifying or knowing who it is exactly. He was always squinting, and his eyes were terrible, right?
Yeah.
And he had glasses on and stuff, and he's always just blinking really hard, looking really weird, and that made him even more off-putting than he was normally. This is back in the 90s. Well, one night I'm out on this smoking area, and Doc's out there. And he's just like shaking his head. I'm like, what's the matter, man? You all right? And he's like, yeah. He goes, I can't believe it. I'm like, what? And he goes, yeah. I had to he didn't say who he was. Right? The ship's a small ship. Got 500 people on board. You're going to figure it out. I had to send him to medical. And he's coming back in a couple of days because they basically had to do surgery. And I'm like, oh, wow. He had been issued contact lenses. Mm-hmm. And he was putting them on top of, he was never taking them off because he didn't know you had to, every single step you had to drill it into him like over and over and over again, right? So he'd understand. But nobody spent the time or he got confused or whatever it was. He just kept stacking them and his eyeballs were growing over the contact lenses.
Oh, gross. No.
Because he had terrible eye infections, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just stuff like that with this kid, man. I felt bad for him, right? We were like, what is wrong with him? And it wasn't, it got to the point where everybody understood that he wasn't just stupid or anything like that there was just something wrong with him. So people had to be in charge of making sure this guy showered and all of that stuff. And it was a fight because he was wired in a way where he just did none of that stuff. He could do it. And now looking back, he was probably pretty highly autistic, but he would work. You had to tell him when to stop working. He would not stop. If you gave him a task, he would do it until he died. So, and I think he started getting better, or I don't remember what the deal was, but yeah, it was some terrible things. So this kid's parents took him to the government, basically. Said the government will straighten him out. And I don't remember what happened to him. And now I'm thinking about it. I wish I did. I wish I could remember. I didn't even know the guy's name, honestly, because he was like on the ship for a couple of years. And as far as I know, never made any kind of rank or anything. Cause you have to take a test. You have to be smart. And if you can't even take your contact lenses out or take showers or your clothes, the basics,
That's not good.
and people were like, if you think about it, like, how did this kid make it through boot camp? Boot camp is a team effort.
Yeah.
One guy screws up, everybody gets in trouble, and I use guy as in there's females and males, right? One person screws up, the entire company gets blasted, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you know what they did? They did everything to make sure that they wouldn't get blasted. So that included keeping up on the kid's hygiene, making sure his clothes were washed, folded, put away, all of it. So they did all of that. Otherwise, you get mashed to pieces and have like 2 or 3 hours of extreme physical exertion because an infraction was broken. When you get to the ship, there's less of that. But yeah, it was a thing. What could be more healthier?
I love and hate this one. What could be healthier and more natural than bamboo clothing? It turns out a lot of things. Now, in order to turn bamboo into textiles, bamboo materials first have to be crushed, ground, dissolved in lye, mixed with carbon disulfide, which is a neurotoxin. They decided to add that. Then washed in battery acid, allegedly, and spun into fibers. So you can actually look up how bamboo clothing is turned into textiles. I'm pretty sure How It's Made has one. But yes, carbon disulfide's used. Certain acids are used. So it is a very aggressive process to grind this bamboo down in a quick commercial process to turn it into clothing. And the biggest complaint I have about bamboo clothing is that it does not last long at all. What was it, like a decade ago, everybody was like super into like bamboo underpants and bamboo socks.
Not me. That's for suckers.
I overspent and bought those bamboo socks, and not only did my feet smell bad, but all of those socks were destroyed in like 6 months.
Yeah, because they're trash.
And I even, put them in a little lingerie bag and washed them, and they still broke down. My biggest complaint about bamboo clothing is the lack of, it's not durable at all.
Right. Well, hemp's better, but hemp lost its favor when cotton farmers and industry or whatever said cotton's the way to go.
You do better
hemp lasts longer.
buying like a hemp linen blend or a cotton linen blend, or investing in good merino items. That's the most, and using the thrift shop. I mean, those are the best ways to be eco-friendly when it comes to clothing. Not buying into fads like. Right now, if we go into Walmart right now, you're going to see clothing and Target as well, where it's like this T-shirt was made with 60% water bottles, old water bottles. Cool. You used so much energy just to grind those water bottles down into plastics for a
Well, the same
t-shirt.
thing could be said for hybrid cars. It takes so much to actually make them that and then disposing of batteries and things like that. By the time you're done, it's not worth doing. You might as well buy a combustion vehicle. It's like 20, and plus hybrid drivers allegedly drive 25% more than regular drivers because that's the reason why they bought it in the first place.
And the hybrid owners that I do know, they're on their 3rd or 4th one, and I'm still running my 2008 Chevy Trailblazer.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can buy like a car from the 50s whose carbon footprint is in the negative numbers now just because it outlasted all the, mathematical equations to determine how useful and how much of an impact that car has had on its environment.
Yeah.
Because to make a new car, the amount of energy expenditure and everything that it takes a new car is way more now than it was back then and all that stuff. So,
But I find it very funny that this website's talking about all these things that are supposed to be good for society and culture and then good for the environment when these ads are actually eating up resources in Google Chrome right now on me.
Well, it is what it is, man.
So, yeah. How about running less ads on your website?
Yeah, but then then you get mad if they have to make you pay for it.
That's true.
So I don't, what, ads are awful, but they're a necessary evil because a lot of people consume content.
Yeah.
They don't care at all how the content was created or the energy expenditure or anything that goes into actually making that content. And then once the content gets made, it has to be stored somewhere because if you had to pay for all the content that you create, store it yourself like it used to be back in the olden days, you wouldn't do it.
Oh, you mean
That's why YouTube is amazing.
Me savoring my 2 free articles a month from New York Times?
No, I mean like you trying to create a web page and you upload a picture and you're like, oh, I'm getting ready to run into all my bandwidth allocation.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people don't understand when you make a podcast, you have an allotment of bandwidth that you pay for every month.
Yeah.
if you do a podcast where you actually own your own content. I'm not talking about like Anchor or something like that, but so like with us, we have to pay for storage. So every little word we speak and everything, we're paying for bandwidth. Back in the olden days, you could get away with it. It's like, just create your own server, and then that way you could just feed people straight to your server, but then you're still paying for bandwidth. So, yeah, things cost money. And YouTube is one of those places where people make content and you can get paid for it. You can actually share in it. Granted, it is made with your content kind of a thing. But if you had to store all that stuff yourself, you wouldn't do it. So, yeah, it's a terrible thing. I don't like data farming and then putting me ads that I like, because it's just a little intrusive, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I am kind of glad that it stops feeding you all the ads that you used to hate, like back in the 90s, early 2000s and stuff, where all our ads were inappropriate.
Yeah.
You know, at least now you can see, I'm sure we'll see dog food ads because we talk about dog food.
Dog food.
Yeah. Yeah, so it is. All right, let's do one more and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay.
Okay, you may feel the urge to donate blood after an emergency, but that leads to shortages later. Donated blood only lasts for about 42 days before it has to be discarded as biological waste. And because people feel that they've done their donor duty, they won't donate again when the glut runs out. So, for example, after the rush of blood donations following 9/11, donations fell off so sharply that the blood banks were experiencing shortages by December of the same year. So people give and they think that's it. Whereas if you didn't donate after an emergency or a hurricane or whatever, but like just donated on the regular, then there you go. Well, I don't care if she's dancing around. We're trying to finish the podcast, so continue and help me.
You can hear her on the microphone.
So what? Nobody knew about it until you said something.
Yeah, they probably think it's me. How fun is that?
Oh, they do now because, let her dance around.
Okay.
She thinks we're done. That's why she's all excited. And you're over there like pointing at her. I can't even see her. My giant monitor is in the way.
Okay.
On that garbage stand. That thing has fallen off like 3 times. But yeah, so the idea is that if you give a bunch of blood and then you don't continue to give, then they eventually will run out. And the blood, if they don't use it or can't get rid of it so that it can be used, kind of goes bad after a couple of months. So I've heard that too. So it is what it is. Well, I guess we're done. The attempt was made. COVID's terrible. It is garbage.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. Any questions, concerns, you can reach out to us on social media. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, everywhere. Just simply put CreepGeeks Pod or CreepGeeks Podcast, and that's us. Alternately, feel free to give us a call. That phone number is in the show notes, as well as everything we talked about this episode.
Yeah. So, all right, well, anyway, there you go. Sorry it took so long. Maybe next time we'll be better. COVID won't.
Less COVID-y.
Yeah. Well, I feel great. Try to talk for an hour and I can't even swallow, can't breathe. So it is what it is. Anyway, I do appreciate you taking time to listen. So we'll see you again. See you later. Take it easy. Bye, Sickle.
Bye.